First of all, yeah, thank you so much. That was such a warm reaction. I don't want to, throw shade on any other audiences, but this was one of the best audiences. Thank you for that. It's very special.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll start things off and then we'll pass it on to the audience. I love the style of comedy in this, and I think so much of it comes from the main character and the performance. Can you talk about how you built that the style of acting performance out of the actor who played Ilyas? Because it's so unique.
Yeah, Adar Verma, who give it up for Adar, an incredible child actor that just so much emotional intelligence and understanding the character, the role, the circumstances. It didn't feel like I was talking to a kid. I really felt like I was working with a collaborator, an adult actor who could understand what was in the script and really bring it and turn that into an internal performance. But about the comedy specifically, I did have him watch stuff from films that I like from the 80s and 90s, like Rushmore, and there's a film that I love called Submarine, that's more recent. And then there's a film from the 80s called Lucas, if you've heard of it, which is really great. And I just love that character so much, played by Corey Haim. Those were films that I had him watch, that I had sent to him, and maybe it influenced something, and maybe it had something but I think as a filmmaker, I guess it's like this. I love when comedy is primarily visual, and also is also I guess a little more dry sometimes. I think that maybe it's like a British influence. There's a sort of a British style of comedy, which a lot of films that I like a lot have, and so I kind of wanted to bring that in, and a lot of that is kind of building around the actor and just sort of visually and almost having the actor do less, and to kind of get that kind of aesthetic. And I think that was something that he fully embraced and kind of understood and could really get into. And I would be like, oh, that was hilarious, and he'd be like, what? It's almost hard from the vantage point of the actor to know a situation is funny, whereas where I'm standing, I'm like, oh, that was great, that was perfect. So, I don't know.
He plays it totally straight.
Yeah.
And
it's like he's in the emotion of it always. Which I think is what you want an actor to be in. And so he's always in the emotion. So he's never winking at the audience thinking I'm in a funny circumstance. Which I think is why it works. Otherwise, the character can't know that he's funny. So,
can you talk about choreographing or designing that last Mustache performance at the end?
Yeah, so that went through many iterations. At one point in the script, it was this really big play with a lot of props and a lot of characters, actually, different actors, and then and I just kept thinking, could it, I wanted it to be believable, that he could sort of throw this thing together, and we ended up stripping everything down, and the idea that I loved, that was always there, was some sort of physical confrontation with the mustache itself as part of a play, and I thought that was great for the film, and then also it's just funny to me. It's so absurd in its own way, and it kind of captured a lot, and so it was zeroing on that, and then specifically I worked with a kind of a movement coach, a dance choreographer, and we did this rehearsal where we just tried a bunch of things, and then we kind of ended up choreographing this sort of thing, and it took on its own life, and it became what it is, and there were these movements and things that I felt like symbolized different things about his journey, and we just kind of embraced it, and it was kind of I think the weirder we got with it, the better it became.
I'm curious, were you a drama kid, or what's your relationship with drama?
Oh yeah, I think doing theater in high school was a transformative experience for me. It really opened me up to the arts, actually. Before that, I never saw the permission, maybe, to try to be a creative person. I think I was always a creative person, but without an outlet, maybe. And I think theater in high school was it just like was like opened me up to a world, and I always knew that was going to be a part of this film when I sat down to kind of sketch it out. I knew that this character coming from where he came from to go into the world of theater was like had to be a part of it, and so it became a key integral part of it.
So the 15-year-old me would need to ask you about your inspired casting of Alicia Silverstone. How did that happen?
It was, that role was not cast. We knew we wanted somebody, you know, like we were trying to find somebody that people maybe had, you know, knew to play that role, and we were shooting and we still hadn't cast that role, and we were, you know, sending the script to people. She read it and she loved it. And it was a very big surprise. It was like, oh, we're gonna send it to Alicia Silverstone. I was like, all right, well, like in my head, I was already thinking of all the backups. I was like, okay, but there's this other actor that might be interesting, and assuming she would just not want to do it, but then she loved the script and she wanted to do it, and the next thing we knew, she was there. And so there wasn't a lot of time to think. I was already in production, and so it was like the train was moving, and then all of a sudden, you know, we have this like. Iconic actor. I think we can agree she's an iconic actor, and so she's there, and everybody's like, it was a mood change that day that she was shooting, and so yeah, it was amazing. And she was so great, and she was so collaborative and smart, and she came with so many ideas, and she asked me really hard questions about it that really forced me to rethink, and I actually retooled some of the scripts based on what she asked me, because they were really smart questions. And I was like, hey, I guess I haven't thought about that enough. And so, yeah, she was great.
Let's open it up to the audience. Any questions? Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Hi. I was curious to get your thoughts on like how you thought about crafting, like how much to put like Islam into it.
Yeah.
Like, there's obviously cases where the audience may not know some things, like use words like haram, and then the nature of just like the story is a human story that can be told, you know, universally. But you, I think, purposely wanted to have like a little bit more of like a Muslim element in it. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts, like how much you wanted to have, how little, and incorporate it.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Just the questions about like how much, like I guess it's like where's the line between making it like you want to put in all the specific cultural and religious references because that's what makes it unique, that's what makes it specific, that's what makes it like different from other things, but at the same time you want everybody to be able to enjoy a story, and so there's like a line there. I mean, I just thought about it like if it was something that, like I always wanted like almost like a touchstone for myself making the film where there were really specific references or really specific words or phrases, and I felt like those touchstones for me like allowed me to always have a pulse on the film, and I think like they for me they made it real to me. Like I had to make the movie real to myself. Like this is represent my own experience, and that was why I was like, I think you should say that. And it's like there are times where we like translate things or we explain what they are and like in ways, but I always felt like I wanted to go like as specific as possible, and then if there was like a need to explain something, then do that. But I think people also, it's like I approached it from a world cinema in a way. I was like, if I was watching a Korean film, if I was watching an Irani film, if I was watching like a film that was not my culture, I was watching that and I fully understand what's going on, and I get it and I enjoy it to the fullest. And maybe there's a few things culturally that I don't get, but I'm getting the film and it's like and it's great. I was like, I think people can do that for like my culture here as like an American Muslim. I feel like people can come in and like they may not get everything, but you can like through the human journey you'll fill in the gaps, you know. And I was like, I think I can expect that, because I do that when I watch films from other cultures. So I was like, that was my like way of thinking about it, and I think like, when people have to like that little bit of extra effort to figure out what's going on, it's like more satisfying too. And I think like if you spoon feed everything, it kind of takes away the enjoyment of like experiencing it for yourself. So that's how I thought about it.
All right.
My voice is a lot in the movie. So I do have, I guess, voice cameos. Like I'm the person at the lunch, at the diner. I say, what's the line? I can check. Just like, that like really memorable line. No, I filled in like my voice in random places when we needed it because it's easier than getting an actor. So it's like almost for like legal reasons, it was easier. So I think there was a scene where I was supposed to be. There's a shot of me it didn't make it into the film, but there was a shot of me at the fundraiser because I was wearing a blazer and then I sat in the audience to be there and I was like, oh, maybe it's a cameo. It didn't make it into the film. I think my shoulder is in the movie or something.
Yeah. What does your dad think about you?
That's a great question. It's almost like a planted question. People ask. So my dad, for the first time, saw the movie. He knew what it was about. I had described it to him. But I was nervous for him to read the script, so then I never built up the courage to send him the script. And then and then the movie, we were editing it, and then I was like, maybe I should send a cut just to see if it's okay. I don't know if you'd be upset about it. And I was like, no, we're still working on it. There's no point in showing it now. And then, pushed that rock down the hill until we were premiering at South by Southwest. And then my whole family was coming, and I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I hope that they don't find it offensive or anything like that. And then, we're all sitting in a row, and I'm like, at any moment during the movie, he could reach over and slap me. I don't know what could happen. And then it went well, and then afterwards he said, it was good. And I was like, oh, okay. He genuinely enjoyed it, and I think it went over much better than I thought it would. He said it was good, but in real life, my business was very successful. That's experience. I was like, I'll take it. So, yeah. So that's how the parents feel about it.
Okay, there. Yes.
Yes. As soon as you came out and you started talking, I'm thinking, is that me? Is that character? And I just wonder, is this film the fruition of what you wanted to do all your life?
Oh man, that hit hard.
He's embarrassed now.
Yeah. No, I think in a lot of ways that's true. That really is true in a way because it's like, a filmmaker friend told me, a director told me this, who kind of mentored me through when I was making this film, and he said about his own experience of making this film. He said, "You're going to live the film as you're making it," and I think I lived. Not only this was my experience, in a metaphoric way, I had lived this, but then making the film was also me being Ilyas in a lot of ways. And so the film, me sitting there with my parents at South by Southwest, isn't very different from Ilyas doing his performance in front of his parents. So in a way, I lived this multiple times through making it, and I'm almost now I've made peace with this film being almost it's externalized from myself, it's like a thing that exists outside of myself. But yeah, there's a connection there that's inextricable, and yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Hi, I really appreciated the open-endedness of the ending, and given the themes of acceptance and autonomy, I was wondering if you'd be willing to share, when you started writing this movie, have you shaved it off?
It's a really good question about whether he shaves, whether he ever shaved it at the end or not. And I think when you're making a movie, sometimes the movie tells you what it needs to be. I had written, I think the original version of this ending was that he shaved it. But I thought when we were actually editing the film, it felt like the movie needed to be, to let the audience kind of bring their own projection to it and not define it it felt like wrong to define it for the audience. And I think there was something really interesting for me in both scenarios, whether he shaves it or not. If he doesn't shave it, I think there's something really interesting there about self-acceptance and like who he is and what he is. If he does shave it, I felt like there was something really interesting about crossing the threshold and into adulthood in an interesting way and like that. But if he stays in this like liminal space between those two decisions, I feel like that's like his last piece of childhood or something. And I just loved that for the ending of the film. So that's kind of what it ended up being. But it was like it was something else like on the page.
Let's go here.
I know you included like clips from Women's World and Saved by the Bell, and I like 90s TV as well, or teen TV as well. I wanted to ask about like coming of age genre influences, and especially like the casting of Alicia Silverstone.
Yeah.
If like a film like Clueless is like part of your inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, Clueless is like, cult classic, like, and a coming of age film. Like it's like, and so I think about the Alicia thing, it's like her being kind of a mentor in this is really cool for her to be a mentor in a coming of age film as somebody who's been in an iconic coming of age film. So I thought that was, but that just happened, right? I mean, it's like the movie had its own destiny, and I think that's like, but about like other, I guess is your question about like 90s coming of age or?
I just wanted to like know if like if you had like any like paying like homage to anything in mind.
Yeah, so many things have some, like, there are many references that are like, different scenes have different like touchstones, like, oh, it's like that thing from this other thing. And I think I've blended together so many different of my favorite films and little moments here and there. But in a lot of coming of age films, like I mentioned before, the stuff I had the actor watch, like Rushmore, Submarine, like Submarine has like a lot of like, there's like a couple of like even, it's just like the way I'm using voiceover is similar to Submarine in some ways. And then in Rushmore, there's some visual comedy there that's like similar and also like a deadpan kind of way. Like the cafeteria cocaine brownie scene, like that was like, I was sort of thinking about that. I also think about the scene about like, it reminds me of the character of like Wednesday from Addams Family. I think the movies, Christina Ricci. But not the new, I don't know, that didn't exist when we were making this one. But yeah, there's like a lot of little moments that I'm like, oh, it's like that thing from something that I love, and so that's, I guess, becomes a movie then in and of itself. It's just like a lot of the different references you like.
Let's go.
Hi. What I really liked about the movie was the time period it was set in. Like I said, it was like the late 90s or
Yeah.
2000s. So I really like the details, like the big computer that he was like sending emails on and like the McDonald's guy.
Yeah. We used to call that just a computer.
So I was wondering, like, what was your idea in studying it at the time period? And like
Yeah.
the meaning behind it?
Yeah. Okay, so this is like, I've thought about it, like, I've been asked this before, and like, there's like, on the surface, it's just like when I grew up. And so I was just like, I'm telling my story, and this is when I grew up. But deeper, it felt like, as a Muslim American coming of age during that time, I felt like anything after 9/11 is like its own thing that you now becomes like, it's like weighed down by having to speak to that, like whatever that experience is. And I felt like as a Muslim American community, we had a whole life, we had institutions, we had organizations, we had schools, we had a whole life that was before that, and I felt like this film, to exist, needed to be in a different time that was not going to be weighed down by that post-2001 time. So that was just something I felt like the movie had to be.
Here.
Thank you. Thank you for the film. It was really fun to watch it. I just
I had definitely experiences in high school that character is based off of, but I think it's like like first gen experiences, like the dynamics between that are interesting to me. I haven't seen them explored a ton in movies, and I thought like, like when you're trying to fit in school, sometimes like somebody who like it's like Arun is like considered like to Ilyas is like uncool because he's like, it's like you're trying to almost get away from that to fit into a different crowd of people, and I felt like that dynamic was interesting, and it was an interesting lesson about self-acceptance. Whereas like Arun is like true to himself, and like he's so comfortable being himself that I think that's like infectious on its own. And it's like you see him at the party, and it's like I feel like it's interesting because it's something Ilyas is struggling with, but Arun is able to do it effortlessly, and it's like, but he's, you know, I just find that dynamic really interesting, and I wanted to kind of like weave that into the story a little bit.
It seems like it's like turning into a second solo, and you know, because culturally there's like so much specificity that people say on.
Yeah, right, yeah. For the sequel.
Here.
As a person who attended Islamic school on Sundays, I feel like a lot of people give it a bad rap. Did you get pushback on, you know, showcasing?
Like even depicting it?
And also, did you go to Cordoba yourself?
So I did go to an Islamic school, like a full-time Islamic school, when up till 8th grade, and I went to public school, and so that's reason, that was the inspiration behind the film, is like that awkward transition between the two. But about depicting the school, well, I did change the name of the school to a different name, and nobody has pushed back. Okay, but I don't know. Nobody's seen the movie. Not a lot of people have seen the movie, so we'll see. But I don't know. I feel like there's enough. I think I did approach it with a sense of like in it's the way I'm showing it. I still feel like I came from a place of like love and nostalgia for it, if anything. So I hope people aren't upset about it, but I can't control that. I guess.
Here.
How was it working with Hassan?
Oh yeah, he's great. He's a friend, and he just kind of. I was like, "Can you be in the movie?" And he's like, "Yeah." But we've known each other a really long time. So I've known him since I was maybe like 18 years or something, and so we went to college together, and so we worked on each other's stuff. We used to make YouTube videos together. So that's like, I don't know. It was like more like, oh yeah, it was weird that all the machinery with a big, like a film, like there's all these people, but it felt like for the moment, for the time we were shooting his stuff, I was like, oh, this is back to like when we used to make YouTube videos. So it was nice. It was like this, it was like in the middle of the shoot where I was feeling low, and it was like a really uplifting day or night to shoot that stuff, because it was like, it was like almost like remembering why I started this to begin with. It's like making videos with Hassan, so it was nice, and he was great.
The group of public schoolers coming into the Islamic school, is that based on a real experience?
Yeah, it is. Oh, so he asked about the public school kids coming into the Islamic school to be. So yeah, when I was growing up, there was a world religions module that other kids had in their schools, and then they would come and like have a field trip to our schools. It was really weird. Now that since like we didn't go to their schools, it wasn't like an exchange. It was just like they came to us to like view, like, and they would like be standing sometimes and like learning math or something. And it was just like, I don't know what they expect it to be like. Like in what ways is it going to be different, or what are they going to learn? But no, I mean they would watch us pray and stuff. I mean, I don't know. It is a weird thing.
Here.
I just want to say I've been coming to SDAFF and volunteering for the last 5 or 6 years, and I've seen hundreds of films throughout that process. This is the first that is talking specifically to me, like as someone who went to a full-time Islamic school, did that transition in 8th grade. I felt like myself was on screen for the first time. I just want to say thank you for making this, and I know that this was probably really challenging. But from the bottom of my heart, like every, drop of effort you put into this is worth it. Like, I
Thank
think
you for
everyone
saying
here can agree tonight, and so I just want to say thank you.
Thank you for saying
this.
that. Thank you. I appreciate it. Questions?
I love the variety of music you had in the film. It was just so, I felt like it really fit. Can you speak a little bit about how you chose the music and how you used the music to tell parts of the story and narrative?
Do you mean like the music or the score or both?
Both.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was kind of dictated from the era and the script. Like that Third Eye Blind song is kind of like just that was the time period, and that was like a band I listened to, and that just came in there. But we also had this amazing, also the opening song, which is actually Cat Stevens' rendition of an Islamic, what they call a nasheed, which is like a religious song. So he did his own rendition of that, and I heard that a lot growing up. So and so it was just, again, I'm like pulling things that have real significance to like my memories of growing up and trying to put them in the movie. And so that came in there that way. And then we had an amazing composer, Dan Romer, who's like just like outstanding. He's an A-list composer that for some reason said okay to our film. And he really brought so much like soul, and he really kind of like had so many great ideas. And like even just in terms of instruments, he had like this idea of using like a digital tabla to give like this subtle feeling of like kind of like South Asian music, but then kind of making it fit the kind of juxtaposition of the film, because I wanted it to feel like a mixture, and I think like he was able to like really dial that in and find something that worked and was really great. And there were so many moments in the movie that we had something in the temp edit, like a song that I pulled from the temp edit, and then he would do something that was like way better. So yeah, I think at that point you're just like relying on a creative person to be creative and give them the space to kind of do what they're doing, and not try to like overly direct or anything. So that was my experience.
Oh, so many questions. Let's go over here.
Kind of building off the music thing, I really like the way you kind of use the sound design to convey the comedy. So like there were a lot of points where, you know, you would have like overly dramatic or like even like action-packed music while like Elias is doing like the McDonald's scene, for example.
Yeah.
And I think that was really effective in kind of like putting us into the mind of like this teenage kid and like his teenage, you know, problems and weird ideas. I was kind of wondering, was that like a natural kind of process for you to kind of make that creative decision, or did you kind of have to like work through a lot to get there, or how?
When we started the edit, like I was trying to get that. I think there was something I always wanted about like a self-serious. Like for him, everything is very serious, and for him, everything. And so it's like the music was always going to be like have that add that level of seriousness. And I thought that would make it funny because the things that are happening could be like ridiculous, but for him it's serious. And so there was a lot of like classical. Like I remember the temp was like from the movie The Favorite, and like kind of like really like classical, kind of like self-aggrandizing music. And so that became like the inspiration, and then so there was always like some, and that was like instinctual. I'm like watching the footage, and I'm like, we're watching scenes, and it just felt like, hey, try this on it, and we'd like try it, and be like, yeah, that feels right. And I think it's like, it's not a thing that I over intellectualize. It was more just like on an instinct basis, like that's funny to me. And I think that's the only way you can make a movie really, is like not thinking about it and just trying to be like, do I like that or not? And I think that was like what I tried to do, and yeah, and it turned out to be what it is.
Time for a couple more questions, right there.
I wanted to ask how you zeroed in on the AIM, the way you did the AIM messages, because back in that time, that's kind of how it felt. It felt like you were really, you know, having a conversation
Intimate.
with someone.
Yeah.
As opposed to nowadays where everything's really hasty.
That's a really great comment and question, and I think that's really true. In movies where people are either texting or some kind of chatting online or whatever, and it feels like that's like a joke or something. It's like a joke that two people are connecting that way. And I was like, well, I don't think that was my experience, and like just doubling down on my experience. In my experience, it felt very real, and like a real connection was being formed, and I wanted to represent that. And there were multiple versions of it, but we kind of visually arrived at really just focusing on their faces and kind of changing the aspect ratio and really like making it feel different in almost like an ethereal space. And then we had the touches of them being in the classroom. And so it's like they're dressed the way that Ilyas remembers them because she only knows her from school. So that was like a conscious thing of like, I think they should be in the classroom because he doesn't really know her outside of school. And that's how a lot of people that I would talk to online, I may not really know them outside of the one place I know them from, or I'm only friends with them online, you know, and I was trying to like find a way to like capture that.
One more question? Right there.
I really appreciated the portrayal of the first generation struggle as parents. I thought that was beautifully done, especially to help the children understand when we see this, to recognize, okay, so I wasn't alone in having parents like this. So I just want to applaud you for doing such a good job on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So now that you've had playing these festivals, what's next for the film?
We're hoping for a wider release, so stay tuned. If you want to follow the journey of this film, three things. One, first, if you enjoyed the film, like fill out your audience award card on your way out. And then secondly, if you want to follow the journey of the film, you can go on Instagram at mustache_movie, or you can find me at Imran J. Khan. And you can see updates about when the movie's available, and you can tell your friends about it, like wherever we're screening next, and also whenever we get some sort of distribution for the film.
Thank you, Imran, for being here and for bringing this film.